I think for me, anchors are really fundamental to being able to build a life rooted in abundance. Just like a captain when he navigates, in the ocean with his boat, an anchor helps you, rest, gives you a pause. When it's time to make a good decision or you need to make a decision in life, anchors help you get to that state where, you could have time to reflect and see what's the best option for you.
And also rest. Sometimes we just need a moment to just take a break, and that gives us that opportunity. And we don't all have to have the same anchors, and it could be very different types of anchors. It could be symbolic, it could be spiritual, it could be a personal relationship that we have, or it could be just some individual person that we don't have a personal relationship with, but based on their actions and their journey, it's something that resonates with us, so we can use that as an anchor as well to help us make the right decision at any specific time and place that we find ourselves in life.
Yeah, and whether you choose a certain type of anchors, everybody could have different types of anchors. And what's the most important thing about anchors is that if it helps you get through the different storms in your life, if it helps you become a better person, a better husband or wife, better father or friend, then you're going in the right direction. It's not something that you should judge or you should see, are my anchors better or are they good? It's something that's very personal. And an anchor will give you strength, and an anchor will help you be authentic. And as adults, we have the luxury of choosing our anchors based on our life experiences and based on what we perceive that's right for us. But when you look at children, they don't have that privilege. When they're born, they have no idea of the concept of faith, fear, or anchors. They're born and they rely on their parents for their upbringing. So the parents play a crucial role in the values that they instill in them, in the faith that they decide to give their children.
When you think about it, kids, when they're born, they don't have faith. They don't know what faith is. Mm-hmm. We as parents, we teach them faith. But when you realize how they have no fear because they rely and depend on us for everything, that's exactly what faith is. When we put our worries and our fears into something, know that it's going to be taken care of, that's actually the first faith that they have is their parents. And that's how we become an anchor for them as they in the early stages of life.
Their biggest superpower, kids, is that they're fearless. And that's such a beautiful superpower that we lose as we grow older, right? And for me, the best way to compensate that is through faith, is through making my kids have faith in God and Jesus and understand the power that they give me and they could give them. And as you grow older, as fear trickles in, you're able to turn to your faith to help you.
Also, something that aligns beautifully with children and them having no fear is the amount of creativity and imagination that they have that at a certain time in our lives we lose. And that creativity and imagination, when you put that without any fear, man, kids believe they can accomplish anything.
And that's why, Dave, for me, to be able to keep that spirit alive as we grow older and try not to lose that with all the different concepts that society puts in place for us not to be able to, reach our potential is through my faith in God and Jesus. And that's why one of the biggest learnings for me was understanding the true nature of fear and understanding that that's a concept that was developed by society to prevent us, people, to reach our potential, right? And what fear brings is another concept that prevents us, because every time we always talk about, oh, should I take that risk? Should I do that? It's risky. Instead of thinking about risk and fear, what you should truly understand is that risk, really what it means, is doing what your heart really wants to do. That's the power. That's what you truly want to do. Your heart is telling you, I want to do that, right? Society tells you, no, it's risky. But the reality, it's not a risk. You're just following what your heart wants to do. And if you follow that and you follow love, nobody's going to stop you, or nobody can stop you from reaching your potential. It might not work in the first shot. Maybe you followed your heart, and maybe, it didn't pan out the way you decided or what you thought it was going to happen. But you know what? The worst thing that's going to happen is that you've learned something in your life. Or, what's the other thing? You've experienced a beautiful experience. So those are the only two outcomes that could happen when you follow your heart and you have your heart in the right place. It's not about fear and risk. It's about love and freedom that's going to enable you to reach your potential, either through learnings in life or either through experiencing amazing experiences.
Yeah, and I like that because when your heart is set on something, fear will convert that into risk. Why? Because when you set your heart on something, fear will start making you doubt and second guess it. Because of what? Because of everything we can lose on the journey to achieve that. So, and that's going to start distracting you from the goal. And that's where fear becomes so much powerful now. And not only fear, but risk. Because now it's all you're thinking about is everything you're risking, everything you have that you can lose in order to achieve that. But that's all being, amplified by fear. And I like how you talk about love and freedom and fear and risk, because it goes back to something I strongly believe, and something I always say is that, man, as we go on our journey through life, of course, you're gonna have fear. But we need to understand the illusion of duality. So basically, we need to understand that everything has an opposite. There's opposites everywhere, positive, negative, light and darkness, yin and yang. The opposite of love is fear. But what we need to understand is that these two opposites, they're not two individual pillars. These are actually, it's two sides to the same coin. And once you're able to grasp that concept that, okay, love and fear are both of the same, then you quickly realize that means that where love is, fear cannot be. And where fear is, love cannot be. So whenever you find yourself now dealing with fear or overwhelmed with fear or second guessing your objectives, your goals, your ambitions, because you start to become scared of everything that you can lose, that's a sign, man. As soon as fear is creeping in, take a step back. Take a step back. Don't think about anything but love. Fill yourself with love. Embody love. Where love is, fear cannot be. You'll see how fast fear can dissolve. It will dissipate and will leave you with a clear mind, a clear conscience to just focus on your goal.
I agree, Dave, that love is such an important anchor to have, and it's important. I think it's a universal anchor, right? I think if the world would have all that anchor, we would be living in a much better, safer, and happy world today. One of my fundamental anchors is God and Jesus. Like I've always said, no matter what storm is in front of me, no matter what happens to me, I always go back to them. I always go back to their teaching in the Bible and try to understand their wisdom through the different passages that I read. And sometimes you read a certain passage and it just opens up your mind and to make you see things that maybe you didn't see it that same way, and that will help you, get through life. But to be able to have those anchors, you need to have the courage to act upon it and to have faith in them, even if you need to stand alone, And that faith will also give you that, what we say, that unapologetic authenticity when you want to guide your close ones, right? You're convinced of the direction you're taking because of the faith that you have. And I think that for me is so important in my life, and that it helps me not always, I could say always make the right decision, because what's right for me. And just to show an example of the power of being able to have the courage to stand alone and having unwavering faith is looking back at Jesus' time. And only a few people had the courage to stand alone and have unwavering faith. And because of them, we are able today to have Jesus' love in our lives.
Personally for me, and I'm sure a lot of people have gone through very dark, moments in their lives, but I remember my dark experience that I've gone through in life that lasted, several years. I remember it had reached such a dark place, and man, I had lost faith in everything, and the fear and the darkness was so overwhelming. I was desperate to find a way out, and I didn't know how to find my way out. And I didn't know back then, I realized it later, but man, I remember when I was 30, this simple thought came to me to just read the Bible. And I had never read it beforehand, but I went to buy my Bible, and I spent the next couple of years just reading it every single day. And slowly, that really started building something inside of me. And it wasn't about understanding and making sense of all the stories. It was just believing what was given to me as a guide, believing that I should spend and dedicate time every day in reading the Bible. And that started sort of opening and lighting this flame inside of me that started without even knowing, realizing that this love started growing inside of me. From all of these, lessons and stories, somehow they became this like love that I started embodying inside of me. And that was the biggest lesson that I learned from studying the Bible, was that all we need is love, man. With love, we can overcome any obstacle, any fear, any darkness, by embodying love truthfully with an open heart. There's nothing that could stop us. And that only at that specific moment, when I had this realization, man, that's when all the darkness inside of me completely dissipated. And at that moment, I understood the power of love. It was the relationship I developed with Jesus as I was studying the Bible.
Just like you and for me, like Jesus and God are really crucial in our lives. And I think that's what also gave us so much strength and confidence in pursuing what we wanted to pursue in our lives. My second anchor in my life is my wife. We've been together for almost 35 years. We've been married for close to 26 years. And we're together since we're very young. And the life, and we're so blessed for the life that we've built together since we met. And we have 3 beautiful children, but it's crazy what we've been through in our lives to be able to have the life that we have today. And that those experiences that we've lived through together, that's what created such an incredible bond together, because it wasn't all great. There was times where we got tested, as individuals and also, as a couple. And to be able to get through it together, really like build this bond that we're so connected and that we could so confide in each other, even in our lowest moments. And that truly helps me really to guide me when I'm confused or I don't know the direction I need to take, or sometimes I think I'm doing a mistake. Because she knows me so well for so long, it's so powerful. But that relationship, it wasn't just built in like I said, in a couple of years or a couple of months. You need to go through so much experiences together, good and bad, to be able to build that bond. And when you get together at the beginning and you say, okay, we're going to build a life together, we have beautiful ambitions, we know what we want out of life, we want to have kids and so forth, and we want to have all kinds of things, but you don't know at that moment what you're going to go through to get to that point. And when I look back, I wouldn't be able to have the life that I have today, me and us. We wouldn't be able to have this life if it wasn't for her strength, in our relationship. And I truly believe that God brought me my wife, Tina, because she knew she was going to be perfect for what we needed as a couple to reach our potential.
Of course, our wives, those are extremely powerful anchors that we have. And for others, it can be any personal relationship that you have with someone that you love and trust, someone that you've gone through so many different experiences throughout your lives together. So my wife and I have been through so many experiences together. We've traveled the world together because that's a shared passion that we have. But I think personally for me, what's very important about my personal relationship with my wife is how throughout life changes us. We change and evolve, we grow. And it's extremely important for each other to accept and allow each other to change through our personal experiences and accept who we are, what we've been through, what we've become, and keep growing together. And that's why it's beautiful, because our relationship, as we grow and evolve, as we heal through experiences, so does our relationship. And this allows us, and you start to realize that this allows us to become one together. We become sort of an item together because of everything we've shared together, but because of also the acceptance of letting go of who we were to become someone new, and then come back together again and go through life together. And then we have our individual experiences, and we keep growing and evolving and coming back. And it just strengthens our relationship. It strengthens the love that we have for each other and for the family that we have. That becomes such a powerful core and anchor in my life today that for sure it's definitely one of my anchor that we carry forward.
This makes me I want to talk a bit about about sin and mistake. We're all human beings. We all have emotions. We're not perfect, and we all do mistakes. And what we need to understand is the power. I think people underestimate the power of forgiveness and the joy that it could unlock if we're able to get there. And nobody knows how much you could forgive. We all know how much can we forgive. We don't know until we are placed in that situation. I always tell myself, if Jesus can continuously forgive the worst a man could do, who am I to even think that I cannot forgive?
Of course, life, it's the human experience, right? We're going through this life, and most of all the experiences that we're faced with, it's most of the time it's the first time we're faced with specific situations, and it's normal that we might make mistakes. We're human. It's part of the experience. What's important is that we take the time to learn and understand from that experience. What's the lesson behind that experience when we make a mistake? And that's, for me, what's extremely important. And if we're able to learn from that lesson with an open heart and, forgive ourselves, which is sometimes it's really hard to do, and we're then able to move forward and help and teach others from what we've learned and make sure we don't repeat that same mistake. For me, that's what, the power of forgiving yourself, that then we're able to forgive others when they make, when they make a mistake after. So for me, the most important thing is realizing that there's no good or bad experiences. They're all lessons that we need to learn. And as we learn from that lesson, we're able to move forward. And sometimes we need to take time and we need to step back to allow, these lessons to make sure we understand them before we're able to move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Other anchors I have in my life, they're not really, they're anchors, but it's a different type of anchors. It's, of course, like, our parents, our grandparents. When I look back, I look back at their life. I look back at the life that my parents, had bringing us up. We come from a big family, and the one thing, and I think the most important thing our parents gave me, is really like a house full of love. I think that's one thing that we were very lucky to grow up in a house full of love, but also having parents that really worked hard and seeing their struggles, but seeing also the love that they shared together. For me, that's something, and I mentioned it, and I always mention it, to be able to display love to your kids is so crucial and so important in their upbringing. And, my memories of our parents is
love and affection.
Love and affection that they always showed, amongst themselves. And, the struggles and the relentless, hardworking that they were, to be able to bring up, we're 6 siblings, right? And I think that's really important. That anchors me, in my life. That's really important.
And we go back to the beginning also, like what we said, as children, our parents are our first, naturally, our parents are our first anchor.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly that. And also the other thing I just want to say about our parents, for me, is growing up, they pushed me to dream. If the dreamer that I am today is because they pushed me to dream. And every crazy idea that I had, it was always the best idea. No matter what, no matter if it was no good or whatever, no matter what we did in our lives, no matter what, any decision we took, they fully backed it up. They were proud of us no matter what. And I think that developed this confidence in us that, that helped me, build the life that I have today.
Of course, because it also took away the fear of failing, took away the fear of trying. It just put in place, again, that creativity and imagination. Let's just have fun. We're passionate about something. We're inspired by something. Let's try it out. Yeah. That's it. No, who cares if it works or not? Let's just try it out. Enjoy the journey of trying this new adventure and see where it brings us.
Yeah. And when I look back also at our grandparents, and when I look at the courage that they had to come to a country that they didn't know the language, it wasn't the same culture, just to have the opportunity to build a better life. It wasn't guaranteed. That decision created this whole world for us, for their kids and for us. I don't know how many people would be able today in our world to take that risk. And whenever I think of them and our grandparents, all four of them, what they've done, it removes any single doubt that could trickle in my head that could prevent me from doing what I truly want to do.
And it's a great example also of faith, because I'm sure faith had a huge part in making sure fear didn't stop them to do and accomplish what they did.
Absolutely. So I think, it's really important to never forget, our grandparents, what they've done, and especially our parents, what they've done to us growing up. I think it plays a role of who we are, right?
Of course.
It plays a role of who we are. That's why Anchors is very personal to each one of us, right? We all have our own anchors. And like I mentioned before, the most important thing about anchors is that you feel comfortable with them and that they play an important role in making you a better person. And not only making you a better person, it helps you make a clearer decision and the path you need to take to be able to be happy, successful in your way, and reach your potential. That's what anchors are all about. And the objective is all about trying to live our fullest life. Whatever gets you there and you're doing a positive impact, you're doing the right thing.
And that's why I love our community, because it's not, me and you as, coaches and guiding everyone, on their own journey. It's really, we're creating a space where we can all come together, share our experiences, and through this sharing, we can guide each other, we can inspire each other. But then this is how the community itself becomes an anchor for everyone.
And that's so true, Dave, and it's so powerful. And that's why our community should be based on guidance and not coaching, because no one is able to coach somebody to have a fulfilled life or an abundant life. You could coach in business, but you can't coach in life. The best thing you could do in life is just share experiences with no judgment and understand the learnings from those experiences and let people decide how to apply those experiences in their own life. And that's how I think and we think we could help people through our community develop a life rooted in abundance.